They don't want you to know. Poison they grow. Profits they show. From those GMOs. Seeds that they sow. Gonna hurt us, we know. Told them to go. Say GMO, no. Hey, look.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me again on this Food Offensive video broadcast. If you saw the first video we did, then you kind of know what we're all about. We also have an intro video out talking a little bit about why I do this, what it is, a bit more about myself. But just a real quick a little about section here. If you haven't seen the intro video yet, you can go see that on the YouTube channel here as well. But just a little quick update. I am a Culinary Institute of America grad. I graduated in 2001, and I've worked all over the place. I've worked at an organic and biodynamic farm and bakery in New York, and then worked at their market stand in the Green Market in New York City. I worked there, went to the New York City a couple times a month, so I got to experience the city a lot over the year and a half or 2 years that we were at school. So, I've worked in Dallas, one of the top restaurants there, one of the top restaurants in Denver. I've also done some international teaching and travels, done some cooking lessons, and just got to travel Asia, spent a couple of years in Japan and saw parts of Asia while there, and just really immersed myself in that culture and that cuisine, and it was just an amazing experience. And for the last 13, 14 years I've been in the food business, and it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I really started to wake up and really started to change my perspective on food in general. I of course went to a top culinary school, and my passion for food led me there, and to have a higher education and a better training so that I could take my career to that next level and have that advantage in the marketplace. But I really just thought about, how to present nice food, how to make it look good, how to make it taste good, and so on and so forth. But I haven't really thought up until a few years ago about the actual food, where it comes from, how it gets into the food supply, and then when we get it in the kitchen. So I've really, in the last few years, started to look at those things and look at some of the dangers that are out there, look at some of the positive things, look at what's healthy for us. We always grew up learning, well, you don't eat too much processed food, or don't eat too much sugar, or and do everything in moderation and you'll be okay. Well, the problem is nowadays there's so many things in our food supply that could be harmful to us if we're not careful and if we're not educated on those things and we don't really watch them. So that is my goal for this video that I put out regularly. Our goal has been weekly, and we're a couple of weeks into the new year here, and we're already on our third video if you count the intro video. So I want to keep that up. I want to be sitting here this time next year and have completed many videos and hopefully inform the public. I mean, this is really my goal here is to bring about awareness and action to our food, what goes in it, and how we are to look at certain things, and how we're ought to read food labels, and what foods are good for us, what foods are bad. So moving along, I just want to thank all those that have given me feedback, those that have subscribed to the YouTube channel, and who have already viewed the videos. Hopefully they've been informative, and hopefully it's brought you back to this one. But my goal here is just to give short videos. The aim is about 10 minutes. Shorter the better, I think, just to give little snippets of what's going on in food, as far as what's in our food and the ingredients that go in it. And this is foodoffensive.com, from the front lines of our food supply. We're coming from the front lines. We're trying to go out there and get this information and get it out to you, and bring awareness to the public about what's going on. So typically every episode is going to be a couple of news stories, 2, 3, 4 news stories, depending on the time allotted, and then we'll go to a special report. Each week will be a special report, and this week we're going to start a special series of reports on GMO. This is our first official video of doing the special reports. The first video that I did the whole thing was really a special report, because it was reporting on the top 10 news stories of 2011 concerning food, top 10 food stories. So I want to continue with those stories this week, new ones that have happened in the last couple of weeks. recently that have come to the forefront. They might not have particularly happened recently, but they've gained steam on the web and in the media. So I want to look at those things and bring to your attention some of the things that are going on, and then we'll move on to the special report on GMO this week. And then the actual GMO will be several weeks, because it'll be about the what, the where, the how, and the why. The what products that are GMO. It's not just plants anymore, it's animals too. The effect on the environment, the effects on our own health, and how to read labels. And then, of course, ending the last one, the series of reports, however long that'll be, several weeks from now, will be what we can do. How can we act upon that, and what can we do to get involved to help bring about awareness and get the word out there about GMO. So we're going to move on to the current news for this week. Now, the first one is this, and it's very interesting, and that's why I chose it. And it's this: a mouse was found in a Mountain Dew. Now, PepsiCo admits that mouse body would disintegrate from Mountain Dew, and that's a pretty crazy article. And picture this: I'm walking through work, and of course we have all these big screen TVs and with information, and then also at the bottom of the screen there's a news ticker, and so it goes on all day long, and I kind of glance when I'm either walking under a TV or walking by one, and I usually don't pay much attention because it's the sports scores right first thing in the morning. It's usually the sports scores from the night before or the day before, and I usually don't pay much attention to it, but this one really caught my eye, and this was the first thing I saw in the first thing in the morning on the news ticker, and it was this story about the mouse found in a can of Mountain Dew. And that's not really a big deal when you've heard of stories all the time of things being found in food, but this one in particular is interesting because, and you'll find out why, and about the way they've gone about handling it, PepsiCo. So I picked some quotes from an article from Natural Society from their website, and this article was written by Mike Barrett on January 4th, 2012. And some of the quotes in there are from this particular article. Of course, when it picks up, the articles get picked up by many different places. But this is just one, and this is some of the things they said. And this is kind of the rundown on that story, and it's this quote: after reportedly finding a mouse in a Mountain Dew can in 2009, Ronald Ball from Illinois is in the process of suing the soft drink giant after finding a dead mouse in his soda can. Needless to say, PepsiCo is completely refuting his claims, saying that the mouse he found could not have been there, as the drink is so acidic that the mouse would have disintegrated before he even opened it. The company says that the mouse carcass would have decomposed into a, quote, jelly-like substance. And that's from the article on Natural Society. Immediately I thought of, those little jelly rats that you used to see on the candy aisle. I was always wondering where they got those from, and now we might know. Well, no, that's not really how they got them, but you can see it there on the screen what I'm talking about. But of course that's a joke, and but it brings this interesting points that this mouse was found inside of a can of soda, which isn't all that rare. That to find foreign particles in food and things like that, and we've seen stories about that before. But the fact that PepsiCo is making the claim that they are to defend themselves, and I think it's more the fact that to say that a mouse could be disintegrated in a beverage is far worse than the fact that the mouse could even get inside the beverage in the first place. So what kind of legal defense is this to defend the company, PepsiCo, by destroying one of its own product's image? It's kind of strange the way that they've gone about this, and that's why I thought I would bring this article to your attention. And couldn't it be easier to explain the possibility of a mouse just falling in the can during bottling, and you would be better off in your defense, or be better off in your image as a company? You can think about the possibility of that happening, but the fact that they're talking about what the liquid can do to the mouse once it's in there. We're putting this inside of our body, and they're talking about what it could do to the mouse, and instead of saying, well, explaining it off as well, there's, we take measures to make sure our bottling is done properly, and we have various safety standards, and but things like this happen, and this must have slipped through. But no, they've gone and kind of given the actual product, the Mountain Dew, a bad image by putting out the truth. I mean, this is them stating that this could happen, that this liquid is potentially able to do this, and that's really scary, I think. I mean, mice do crawl on top of canned goods and soda, and we're encouraged to wash these things off first. I mean, I remember several years back when I worked for a company, and they put out a memo saying, make sure you're washing your canned goods, make sure you're washing your soda tops before you drink them, because there's possibilities that droppings get on there, and obviously you can see droppings, but if it's urine and it's dried on there, you might not be able to see it, and you could ingest that and of course become ill, and that's very dangerous to do that. So I think it's odd that they've gone about it this way. I mean, I've had an experience as well where we were using this particular place I worked. We were using foam, white foam plates for catered events and carry out food. And the plate's white, and it's laminated. They do that, so the food doesn't absorb into the plate, and so on and so forth. It kind of puts a barrier there. And actually, we found in the stack of plates, just randomly in the stack, luckily before we put them out, I mean, that would be embarrassing, that to find a cricket that had been laminated into the foam, laminated on top of the foam plate. It must have somehow jumped into the plate area, however they make these things, and then right before the laminate went on it. I mean, you couldn't have made this up or even made it. So that's my experience dealing with something of that nature, and the plate company could have just said, that it jumped in there, and that would have been better to say that, we take all the measures that we can, we do all that we can to make sure that this doesn't happen, that foreign items don't get into our product. That would have been the best thing to say. But if they were to take the stance of PepsiCo and what they're doing in their particular instance here, in their suit that they're going through, if they would have said, well, actually, there's no way that cricket could have been in our plate because the foam is so toxic that it would have dissolved that cricket, or the heat of laminating the plates would have been so high that it would have just dissolved the cricket into nothing, and you wouldn't even know that it would have been there. I mean, that would have been a much worse defense, and that's kind of the similar thing that PepsiCo is taking with this Mountain Dew problem that they're having. And basically, the guy actually sent in the mouse in liquid in a mason jar to the company, and of course that evidence is gone, supposedly. So if he really sent it in, they don't know where it is. It's very convenient, I think. But going on, say that if this mouse if it's really can be turned into a, quote, jelly-like substance, then how do we know that we haven't drank Mountain Dew containing mice before? I mean, if it's really dissolved into something as if you couldn't even see it, how do you know you haven't drank it before? I mean, that brings a really bad rap, a really bad image to PepsiCo, I think. And if you taste the Mountain Dew next time and you feel a little texture in the beverage, you might want to stop and put it back in, spit it back in the bottle. But moving along with the article to finish up here, it says, quote, hopefully people will not lose sight of the real news here. We have a mega corporation producing a liquid ingested by millions of people. Liquid that is capable of disintegrating the body of a mouse. It is well known that soda is completely unhealthy and causes obesity, diabetes, and all types of other health problems, thanks to the chemical additives and high sugar content. But this shocking information could very well be the tipping point for many soda drinkers. Yeah, I believe so too. Not to mention, I've quit drinking it as well. I used to love drinking Mountain Dew, but it's also that, not just this story, but before that, it's the high fructose corn syrup that's in it. And we're going to hit a whole series of high fructose corn syrup special reports as well after we finish up on the GMOs, and we'll get into a little bit of that, and you'll know why I'm saying that. But going on to the next story, we're just going to do two this time because I want to really cover the GMO and really just make this short and sweet. But the next article I wanted to point out to you is this. Frito-Lay was sued for false, quote, all-natural claims. Now, Frito-Lay was hit with a lawsuit on all natural claims, and that story is by bakeryandsnacks.com. Now, this is PepsiCo's snack business, so we're kind of picking on PepsiCo here, but hey, it just happens to be they're getting hit with lawsuits. So this is their snack division, of course, is Frito-Lay, and it has been accused of misleading consumers by making all natural claims on its products, which also contain genetically modified corn and vegetable oils. So they're claiming all natural, but yet it contains highly dangerous and potentially hazardous products in it. So, but the article says that the food law attorney Jonathan W. Emmerd, he said this to the article: the FDA's general position on GMOs and quote all natural claims strongly suggests that the inclusion of GMOs in foods does not disqualify the quote all natural claim. Moreover, the prolific presence of GMOs in the food supply makes it difficult for any food labeled quote natural to be truly GMO free, he added. Almost every company uses what might be considered GMO foods, and because of the difficulty of containing GMOs, virtually every product containing a natural label undoubtedly contains GMOs, he continued. So this is a gentleman who is a food law attorney. This is what he focuses on. So he obviously has seen possibly other cases, and he's obviously investigated this and seen that it's not possible, supposedly not possible for a product to be truly natural. So that's maybe the defense that they're going to try to take. But my question is this: why does it have to be difficult, quote, difficult, for natural labeled foods to be GMO free? I mean, say we got rid of all GMO altogether. Say we just were able to get rid of it. I know that's a hard task and a long process, but if we don't start it, we'll never get there. We'll never achieve that. But say we got rid of GMO altogether, then there wouldn't be a question as to whether or not they exist in a product because, well, they wouldn't actually exist at all. The GMO would be non-existent in our world, so we wouldn't have to worry about a food labeled natural being containing GMO. So, and there's this, a marketing bandwagon that people are on, that companies are on, about all natural or BPA free, and they've noticed that the consumer, they study this, they know what consumers want, and so they market their products in that fashion. Whether they care about natural products or not, they want to give the customer what they're going to buy, and so there's this all natural labeling designation that it's that they jump on the bandwagon. Well, how about we be more strict on products and just kick them off of that? If their product is not really truly natural, just kick them off the marketing bandwagon and allow only those that use that designation that are truly all natural to be there. I mean, when you are out shopping, you're shopping for groceries, you may have your kids with you, or you're in a hurry and it's the last thing you want to do at the end of work or whatever, and you don't have enough time to investigate each and every ingredient to make sure you want to put that particular product in you and your family's body. You should be able to look at a label and see what it says on the package, and seeing that it says all natural in big bright colors. Sometimes they put logos and things to show that this is an all natural product to catch your eye. We should see that logo or see that label and say, yes, I can trust that that's all quote all natural. I mean, is that too much for us to ask of them? Well, evidently it is, according to this gentleman's experience and expertise. But like he said, this is going off of what he said, what this shows, in my opinion, is that GMOs have so heavily inundated our food supply that soon nothing can be guaranteed to be truly all natural. I mean, we're going to look into more into the environmental and the health effects of GM food, that's genetically modified food, as well as what foods to trust and what to look for in ingredients labels, and that'll be an upcoming series of special reports, and like I said, that will be starting today. So, we need to be able to designate and see that these products aren't all natural. So there's a couple other GMO articles that we might look at next time leading up to the next special report on GMO. But this is the first one for GMO, the first special report, and that begins now. And so tonight's special report, GMO, its history, what is it, and what foods are GMO. So first of all, what is it? We're going to hit this first. What is GMO? What does that stand for? Well, it stands for genetically modified organism. Or they have also used GEO, which is genetically engineered organism. Of course, putting emphasis on the engineered, it has been created in a way, and it's been genetically altered in a way, and you'll see that later in following special reports on what it really is. And then it's also seen as GEI. I first saw this, shopping for our baby. She's just now starting to eat food, and so we're trying to get healthy baby food and all natural and organic, and we're really spend a lot of time focusing on that. And so if you don't get anything out of this, at least we do, because we're studying it for ourselves at the very least, but we want to get it out there to you and share the information with you. And maybe you have young children, and of course, obviously for yourself, you need to be healthy to be able to take care of your family and provide for them. So it's important that you're healthy as well. So I first saw the GEI, it's genetically engineered ingredients. That's what that stands for. When looking at the baby food, it said no GEIs, and so I figured out what that was. I knew it was something around that, pertaining to that, and that's what it is. There's no genetically engineered food in it. No ingredients are genetically modified. There's organic oats and organic fruits, and whatever is in it is organic. And so, and these carry the USDA organic label, it's pretty trustworthy. And so we'll see that in future reports. But going on about GMO, a genetically modified organism, or GMO, is a genetically engineered organism, or genetically engineered organism is an organism whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. I mean, the name says it all. I mean, there's no hiding what it is. It's been altered using genetic engineering techniques. We'll get into some of those things deeper in future reports, but the rundown is really this. Genetic engineering uses DNA molecules from different sources, which are combined into one molecule to create a new set of genes. I mean, they're creating genes out of two or more things. And this DNA is then transferred into an organism, giving it modified genes. And there's also transgenic organisms, which is a subset of GMO. And the transgenic organisms are organisms that have inserted DNA from a different species. It's cross-species manipulation, and that's very dangerous, and we'll look at that later. But GMOs are the constituents of genetically modified foods. Going back to the transgenic plants, they've been engineered to process several desirable traits, such as, say, a resistance to pests or herbicides or harsh environmental conditions. They grow them to resist frost and below temperature weather and things like that. Also, they've created it to supposedly improve shelf life, to increase the nutritional value, to increase the yield. We find out later that a lot of these promises that they say that they do, that they're telling these farmers that you're going to get a better crop yield and this is better for you and things like that, and we find out that through studies that this is just not true, and it's not so nutritional after all. And so hang with me, and I'll explain why later on down the road. But also a history of GMO, just a little bit about the background. Basically, it's called genetic engineering, and it was made possible through the discovery of DNA and the creation of the first recombinant bacteria in 1973. And they took an existing E. coli bacteria and expressed on it an exogenic salmonella gene, so they were able to combine the two. And now small-scale experimental plantings of GMO plants, GM plants, began in Canada and the U.S. in the late 1980s, and the first approvals for large-scale commercial cultivation came in the mid-1990s. And since that time, the adoption of GM plants, that's genetically modified plants, by farmers has increased annually. And yes, it has grown exponentially, and not just in the U.S. but all over the world. I've seen reports of possibly 90% of the corn in the world is genetically modified now, because not just because they bought the genetically modified seed to grow it, but also that it also is able to be spread onto other nearby fields and infect their plants, and it's very dangerous for our environment and for ourselves. And so we're going to look at some of this later on. But I talk about genetically modified foods and genetically modified organisms. So what foods are? What foods in our market, in our grocery stores are genetically modified? Well, there's 6 major GMO crops. It's soy, corn, canola, cotton, sugar beets, and alfalfa. Now, each has an added bacterial gene allowing the plant to survive an otherwise deadly dose of weed killers such as Roundup. That's what they call them. They call them Roundup ready crops. They can survive a dose of weed killer. But the problem is the farmers then use a considerably more amount of herbicide on these crops, and it causes that higher herbicide to reside in our food and to be passed on to our food. So we're ingesting that herbicide as well. And the second most popular trait is a built-in pesticide. These GMOs have a built-in pesticide, and it's generally found in genetically modified corn and cotton. And it's where an inserted gene from the soil bacteria called Bt secretes the insect-killing Bt toxin into every cell. So it's an insecticide. And the other GM crops, of course, are a Hawaiian papaya, which I was surprised to hear that, but that's one of the other GM crops, and a small amount of zucchini and yellow crookneck squash. And the reason why that those are particularly engineered is because they're engineered in a way where they can resist a plant virus to keep them from the crops from dying, and that's how it's sold to the farmers as a way for them to have a higher yield, because these they can resist viruses, the plants can. But GMOs are not safe. I will say that again. GMOs are not safe. A lot of the information tonight that I've talked to you about is from the Institute for Responsible Technology. Jeffrey M. Smith, he is the founder of the Institute for Responsible Technology. He has several books out, and one of them is Seeds of Deception. You can find at seedsofdeception.com. We'll be using a lot of the material there. There's printable brochures for you to share with people and things like that. And he talks about, the effects. He's traveled all over the world where these products are grown, and he's interviewed people, and he's talked to scientists, and they've seen the studies. They've seen studies, and they've seen scientists who have been attacked in their career for putting this information out there, which is from the truth from their actual studies. And some of that information is that GM foods, genetically modified foods, are not properly tested for human safety. Although human studies are not conducted, adverse findings in animal studies have prompted the American Academy of Environmental Medicine to call for an immediate moratorium, or that's of course a temporary prohibition on GMOs. They cite problems with reproduction, immunity, digestion, aging, insulin, and cholesterol regulation, and of course organ function. There's been several articles out about, and one of them was actually on my top 10 food stories of 2011, and that was the story that GMO seed from Monsanto's, the GMO corn, has been shown to cause organ failure in the animals that they tested it on. So very scary, very dangerous. So it's something to be aware about. And you'll find some references on that side, and I have them up on the screen here, the references that he uses, but I'll have the website also, and also in the video comments below. Also, GMO in animal nutrition. There's some things in that as well, and they've used another one of their sources in when they do the studies on the organ failure and things like that. That it's very dangerous. Now, GMO, we talked about what it stands for, genetically modified organisms, but some evangelical Christians could say GMO stands for God move over, because really, in a sense, genetic engineers are playing God. They're creating something new from something that's supposed to be natural for us. a natural food that's supposed to be naturally occurring. But even if you don't believe, in a creator or intelligent designer, i.e. God, even if you don't believe in God, I mean, you can't scientifically deny the fact that we're on this planet that's out in space, and it just happens to have the right environment for us to survive. And there just happens to be naturally growing plants that give us the nutritions that our bodies just happen to need. Despite, whatever you believe, religious beliefs you have, you can't deny that there's food that we need that is grown, that we need, that our bodies use for nutrition. And I bring that up because, tampering with this nature, with nature in this way, by splicing plant and animal and insect genes, it's disrupting the natural processes. And studies are showing that there is a toll to be paid for that. So that's it for this week. That's just an introduction of GMOs and what they are. And next week we're going to get more current news that's going on that I find throughout the week. If you have any thing that you see, you can send them to me that's noteworthy. And then we're going to continue the series of special reports on GMO. We're going to look at the individual products. We might take one special report for each product. Do one on corn, do one on soy, and on canola, and etc. Because these main products, there's not very many of them, of the products that they are saying that are genetically modified. The problem is these are main products that it's in a lot of the food that we eat, and so it's very, very dangerous that the particular products that are GMOs are the ones that we eat a lot of and that are in a lot of our food. And so we're also going to look at those health risks, and we're going to look at some published studies and the different products that the food is in. So in conclusion to this special report and news articles right now, our podcast is now up on iTunes. It has been approved by Apple, and it is on the iTunes store. On the podcast, it's free, of course. Podcasts can't be they can't charge a fee for those on iTunes, so that's free. Right now it's the audio version. I'm going to do audio and video, and you can have that if you want to just listen to the audio of the show. Of course, you can't see the document cams, document shots, or you can't see the graphics that I put up on screen that you've seen here on this video, but you can at least get the rundown on audio if you only have time for that, or if you're in your car. I recommend watching listening to the audio, not the video in the car, so that's why I put that on there. And you're able to share that with people that way. I also need to work on a better graphic for that, but it's up at least, and it's been approved, and it's gone through that process, and so it's on there. You can subscribe to that podcast and see that. But podcasting is just a great medium for listening to the show, learning new things elsewhere through other people that are out there. And I listen to about 4 hours a day of podcasts or more, and so it's you learn so much, and it's entertaining and knowledgeable and educational. So I want to encourage you to do that, whether it's mine or someone else's. Also, foodoffensive.com, I try to post upcoming headlines about what we're going to cover on the show, and just try to post if there's noteworthy ones throughout the week, whether I cover them on a video or not. I want to just show them to you and show you the headlines. And there's going to be a documents and source section to come. Of course, on each video I do that you see on YouTube and other mediums, the sources and things for that particular video are underneath the video in the comments or info section. And you can follow those links and things, so that way you can see the documents for yourself and see the studies and so on and so forth. So like I said earlier, if you have something that you want to see covered, or if you want to be on the show, you can send that to showtips@foodoffensive.com or foodoffensive@gmail.com. I encourage you to do that, and just be aware, be out there and kind of look at what you're eating, and really take a second glance at it, and not just accept what they're giving us, because there's alternatives, and sometimes it is more expensive to eat healthy, but in the long run you are going to save on healthcare, and you're going to save on your life. You're going to have a better quality of life by eating healthy, and that's my desire. I want to show you what you can do how you can eat healthy, what things to avoid, what things that you should get more of, what certain things are, whether we go through superfoods or milk or different vitamins and supplements and different things like that, and also what to avoid. And that's why I'm starting with GMO right away, because it's such a big problem right now that we're having and that we're facing, and that's what I want to focus on right away. So I thank you for joining me on foodoffensive.com video broadcast. If you're listening to this in audio version, you can see all our videos on YouTube and also at foodoffensive.com. I welcome you to look at the site and see more about me and see more about what we're covering. So until next time, thanks for joining us.
They don't want you to know poison they grow, profits they show from those GMOs, seeds that they sow. Gonna hurt us, we know. Told them to go, say GMO, no.